We got us a little interesting situation here. So this stream is basically going to be me playing Minecraft, chilling out, and just chatting about some basic things. One of which is something that Liberal Hive Mind actually brought to my attention. That, hey, could you turn that down, please? I'm trying to stream. Babe?
Yeah?
Thank you. One of those things, and I'm going to totally get dinged for copyright for that. Thank you very much.
I didn't realize you were streaming.
Yeah, I was trying to make it abundantly clear that I was, but apparently you didn't hear me.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
Um,
Sorry.
if
That is my
YouTube
fault.
wants to strip that audio out, that's fine.
I did not do that intentionally.
So Liberal Hive Mind has brought it to everyone's attention that YouTube, and I almost said McDonald's because I'm thinking food for some reason. Go
Probably
figure, right?
I work there.
Right. Don't say that stuff on stream. That also could violate, doxing, for example. Now I have to put out a disclaimer. I'm not sponsored, nor would I ever be sponsored by anyone like McDonald's, unless, of course, we had to sit down and actually discuss my content, and they understand that they are not going to agree with some of the stuff they say on my channel.
That's true. Although my boss probably would.
Your boss would, yes, but I'm more talking about their boss's boss's boss. Because realistically speaking, the people who handle, like, YouTube content creators and
Are
stuff
the higher ups in that
are corporate. It's largely corporate.
Well, thankfully, the corporate for the franchise that we're a branch of is not run by their corporation. It's run by the group that owns our branch.
Which is managed by the larger corporate. Okay, I'll explain. The group that owns the property. They don't own McDonald's. They answer, when it comes to decisions run by McDonald's corporate, they have to abide by it. What they don't have to abide by is the individual locations. So if there is a building restriction, for example, that doesn't allow for an ice cream machine or something, like a local zoning code or whatever, your group that manages your McDonald's is responsible for negotiating that difference. They still have to report it to corporate.
Gotcha.
The overriding McDonald's corporate board is the one that tells them that they can produce the Big Mac, the McDouble, and all of that.
Gotcha.
That's where people get it fudged up. Could you get my blue one, please?
You're gonna have to use earbuds because there's voice acting on that game.
Okay, that's fine.
I wanted to let you know so that it doesn't interfere with
I'm setting up a Joy-Con charger for my Switch right now anyway,
Yeah,
so.
you said you were streaming, and I didn't know that you
Um,
were. I couldn't hear you speaking to me.
Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Something about YouTube that Liberal Hive Mind just said that is part true. Okay.
Magnus, leave me alone.
Magnus, enough! Holy crap, I'm trying to stream here. What the hell is going on with this house? I'm trying to do my fucking job.
Sorry, baby.
Anyway, Liberal Hive Mind said something that was very appropriate, and I'm sorry for raising my voice on stream. The dog was not behaving properly. And, everyone insists on making a shit ton of racket while I'm trying to get things set up here. But what he said was that YouTube was a inherently leftist organization. And it's true. Alphabet, Google, and YouTube are what we would call leftist organizations. I got it. The difference is that they're not purely leftist. They are a business first, and that is the important thing to remember. And while they were playing subservient to a leftist mob for a while, I do attribute this win to Donald Trump winning the election. And the reason that I do that, and the reason it's so important, would be because it showed them that there's a lot of people out there who don't follow that dogma. And that makes it utterly important for everyone to remember that when it comes to being a business, don't pick a political side, okay? And I know that's hard to do, Wow, this is gonna be a problem, babe.
Hmm?
This is one short ass cord. How am I supposed to plug that in over there?
And we threw away my extender cord, didn't we?
Yep. And the one that I have, the only one that I have, is running all of my streaming gear.
Well, looks like we'll need to buy another one of those
We're
cords.
gonna have to fucking go to Walmart anyway.
Even if it's not today.
Yeah, I'll probably do it tomorrow, maybe. Yeah, that look of misery was me briefly regretting the fact that I might have to do a trip up to our closest Walmart to get an extension cord for doing a thing. Anyway, I guess that's what I get for trying to do a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, here's the large overriding point. We are looking at a correction of the past, is what we're looking at. So, YouTube's CEO, the lefty queen herself, or king himself, could very well be as left as they come. But there is a reality about YouTube that people don't understand, and that is YouTube is constructed as a business like most businesses. They still have a board to answer to. And they also answer to Alphabet. Alphabet being the conglomerate responsible for products like Google services, etc., etc., etc. The list goes on. YouTube, like any, you know what they are, right? So, when YouTube or Google decides to fluff about and mess up, right, with a leftist rhetoric, and then an election in a country happens that's as reputable, or not as reputable, but as reputationally influent as the United States, and that election shows them, oh, by the way, we're alienating over half of our market by making these choices, and actually I'd argue anything over like 30% of your market, if it comes out that you alienating certain points of view on a video platform can cost you a potential of 30% or more in, business dollars, then you're answering to the board, because they're going to, at minimum, give you a screeching letter that would make the one from that Harry Potter movie look like, well, a s'mores.
The Howler.
Yeah, the Howler. Look like a s'mores. They're probably going to be slamming stuff around your office and beating the hell out of you for it. To be honest. Even if you are the CEO, it's probably going to be the whole board, not just one or two people, because you are negatively affecting their income. Now, here is why YouTube tries to save face by saying we're not politically aligned one way or the other. Because they have to. They 100% have to. Okay, so as an example, my channel is what some people would call, when I get political and start talking about politics, some people would call it a somewhat extreme right. It's not extremist right because I don't call for violence. In fact, I call for just the opposite. I call for some very hardline right agenda items, which could land me in that category, right? But that's just it. That's my channel. I'm hosting it on YouTube. My channel is... I'm okay with my channel being directed at just the people who agree with me. And I don't mind it being directed at people who don't, right? So, at the end of the day, what we have is this weird situation where YouTube is supposed to be center. The CEO and some of the board are saying we have to abide by these complaint letters that are coming in from a couple leftist talking heads. And then we get this election where it's like, yeah, but they're leftist talking heads that make up less than 30% of the population. So that's where you get what we have here. So what is happening is what some people would call an overcorrection. I just kind of call a naturalistic correction of the situation. It's based off of the business model that is YouTube and Alphabet and Google. They were told they had to push a certain talking point by a certain group of screeching talking heads. Now that those talking heads have been put in their place, however, they don't need to do that. There is no need to do that at all. And YouTube is going to issue out letters like what they did in response to the Ripley re-recorded or whatever it's called. I don't really give two flying you-know-whats about it, because why should I? They're right in there with Hassan Piker. They're in the left wing of sphere of influence. I'm in the right. Why should I care about what the left says? I'm speaking to the right. Plain and simple. The only time I care about what they say is when they flub up and end up, on an Asmongold video somewhere for, I don't know, promoting terrorists or something like that. That's the only time I care, because it's minorly entertaining. And it's probably more entertaining than half of what Disney puts out these days. Actually, I'd argue that Disney's modern entertainment production line is probably about a quarter as entertaining as the average Asmongold video, as seen by his viewer count numbers.
Can you pass me the mouse right there real quick? I just want to see the channel for what I'm looking at over there.
Which one? Gen 10 leaked?
Yeah, I wanted to see the channel.
It's Galarian Gold.
Galarian Gold?
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm not familiar with his channel, but...
Neither am I, but I'm going to bookmark his video for myself for later.
Actually, I'm just going to leave the YouTube that's up there where it is, so we can watch it later anyway.
Okay. We'll watch it after.
I'm interested to see if he's legitimately leaking a thing, or if it's total flub, because no offense to the guy if he's legit, but like, a lot of the stuff on YouTube relating to Pokemon ends up being flub.
Image that was there without you hovering over it showed two covers for games called Wind and Wave or something like that.
Yeah, I want to make... Alright. So, when it comes to Pokemon news, and this is my recommendation when it comes to it, go on YouTube and see what YouTubers are saying, and then go pick a search engine and start looking at, like, Nintendo newsletters.
Yeah.
Don't ever just go off of what a fucking YouTuber says.
Yeah, because some people once did that when someone came out with a very legitimate trailer for
even
M&J.
Even M&J Plays will sit here and tell you not to take everything he says as gospel when it comes to new releases or unreleased content, because a lot of the times, not even so much that it's done maliciously, because, Nintendo could just change their mind, and then all of a sudden a video that you just made like 2 days ago is complete and utter BS. Okay?
Yeah. So,
that's just something to kind of bear in mind. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company change their minds about things all the time. And people, a lot of normies out there who are not in the computer programming or game development sphere don't understand the difference between a game title and a project name. A game title is usually some pre-production thing that ends up most of the time becoming the game title itself. A project title is just the project that led to the game. You could have, like, take for example the Xbox One. I think it was called Project Scorpio when it was first coming out. Well, obviously the Xbox One is not called Xbox Scorpio or any relevant thing to it. It's just the Xbox One. Project names are project names for a reason. Heck, our game that we're creating on RPG Maker 2003 is called Project Skull in the project files. The game itself is titled Osarian Heroes. A lot of normies don't understand that.
Well, that I understand. But, I mean, like...
But, like, you can't... I don't trust what he's saying there, and I won't until I get it right from Nintendo or the Pokemon Company's mouth.
I'm literally waiting for the Nintendo Direct, which comes out, I think, sometime this month or next.
You know what? Give me a second on that one. Actually, because...
It's either this month or next month that it comes out.
And speaking of which...
we already know the name of the game that's coming out this
What's
year.
it called? Pokemon or Nintendo Direct?
Yeah,
or...
Nintendo Direct.
Alright.
It'd be Nintendo Direct 2025, and I don't remember when it's supposed to be released.
Give me a second, I'll pull it up. So January, February, March, April.
Oh, it's in April?
April 2nd.
Gotcha.
April 2nd, 6 a.m. Pacific time.
So it'll be...
2 o'clock a.m. our time, basically. 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, man.
Wait, Pacific time... No.
Is ahead of us.
Morning, we'd be at night.
You're right. So it'd be 10 o'clock our time.
Yes.
Actually, 9, because, well, I don't know. I don't know. There's a difference between Pacific Standard and Pacific PDT and PST. Give me a second. Oh.
I think California is 6 hours behind us. And they're on the Pacific area.
No, they're not.
No?
Alaska's only 4.
Oh, then they're
How
not
are
bad.
they 6? They're like,
I wasn't.
they're either
my
3 or
brain
4.
Is not processing
Actually,
the
California is only 3.
And California is on the Pacific side of things.
Yeah, so is Alaska. There's 2 different Pacific designation.
I know Alaska's in one part of the zone, and California is just outside of that one.
So Pacific Daylight Time. Oh, eat it. It's observed by everyone else, so you over there in friggin' Europe can eat a dick.
What?
Pardon my parlance there.
No, I was.
They are in the 3-hour zone from us,
Okay.
which means that they are 3 hours behind, which means that it will be 9 o'clock our time on the 3rd of April. Or, sorry, the 2nd of April. So, we need to find one of our calendars and mark that day so I can cover it via stream.
Yeah.
And I also need to start covering other events like Xbox's version of it and
They have
Steam's
a version
releases. Huh?
They have a version of a.
Yeah, so does Steam and a lot of other people.
I didn't know that they had that.
Actually, Sony kind of has a version of it.
The entire video is currently playing without sound.
Yeah, I know.
I find that a little funny. I
But
thought it would just do what some of your other videos do, you know?
what I'm actually waiting to hear about is any news about a legacy collection for the Pokemon Gen 1 through like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Because, let me rephrase that. Pokemon Game Boy generation all the way through to the end of the 3DS generation.
I'm hoping that Nintendo does a trilogy collection for the Etrian Odyssey Untold.
Yeah.
Because there was supposed to be a Untold version for
But
the
that
first
was
game,
just me
but it
covering.
never happened.
And I died. Because this is set up as an online game, I died and I wasn't paying attention. That's what happens when you get distracted and you're streaming and you're talking about things that are not your game. Now, if I can just remember which one of these little crater areas has my crap in it. It wasn't that far. It's right there. Yeah, that's the crouch button. I know. Thank you for so marvelously reminding me of that fact.
You just gonna come back later?
Yep.
I don't blame you. But at least you made that area right enough to where they don't really want to come in. Aside from the spider.
Yeah, there's also 2 gates that the doors are shut.
But yeah, like back when Sun and Moon was what a thing, and they were announcing the next game, which was actually the Ultra version of them. Someone came out with a very realistic and believable trailer for a new game that was supposed to be coming out.
As for
called
why I
Pokemon
will be
Stars.
as for why I'm actually covering this event on my channel, it's because the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be in-depthly discussed at that particular Nintendo Direct. We here own Nintendo Switch 2s, both of our Nintendo Switch 1s. She has the original model,
Yep.
and I have the OLED model. We are interested in the Nintendo Switch 2 because we want to upgrade our daily use systems, but keep the old ones attached to the family entertainment centers or guest entertainment centers in the house, namely the TV in the living room. And your Nintendo Switch,
It'll be going into our bedroom.
Yeah, mostly for watching stuff on YouTube, actually.
Yeah, and then I can get rid of the internet connection for that TV that's back there, so we
Yeah.
don't have to use that.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
we're not gonna be using it anyway, so
Roku's crap sucks anyway because they like to try to force, advertisements and trackers down your friggin' throat, and it bogs down your smart TV, and it's just kind of garbage. Because that always bugged me.
Not to mention a lot of the apps that are on there,
Why?
you can get on your phone.
And there is another one that I'm gonna get into here in a minute, and it has to do with a Roku patent. But it's a smart TV. You're supposed to be using it to watch stuff like Netflix or use your home DVD player or game system, right? Why in the heck do I need a billion different advertisements on a screen that's supposed to be me selecting a video streaming service that, by the way, already has advertisements built into it? And the advertisements and tracking lead me to another fun little fact that was brought to our attention by a certain YouTuber that I can't remember his name, but he's an awesome dude, and I do recommend that you go look into him if you can figure out who I'm talking about. That is the town plow.
Oh, okay.
I think his name is Louis or something like that. But I could be wrong. Why in the hell would I buy a TV that the software on the TV is going to force an advertisement whenever I swap between devices? Injecting it into the HDMI hardware. That, I'm not gonna lie, as a consumer, I think that should be illegal. That's like telling me that you're gonna come into my house and put a TV screen on my microwave and force an advertisement before I can heat up my food. How about you go F yourself in a corner somewhere? That's my response to that. So, yeah, Roku can go itself as far as I'm concerned. And before they get mad at me and say, oh, we're not actually going to do it, blah, 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 then why do you have a patent for it? Or riddle me that. Hey, look, my sword. And, even if you were just considering it, the fact that you were even considering it is what offends us as consumers. In general.
Hey, babe.
Hey, what?
When this game finally appears on the Switch store for the pre-order, do you mind if I pre-order it? It's the new Rune Factory game.
Maybe. We'll see what the budget says.
Okay.
That's really what a lot of our gaming purchases fall under, and the only reason that we've been able to buy what we've been able to buy is because it tax season in the budget.
Oh, what the heck just fell?
So,
Oh, that.
all right.
Get over here.
But anyway, no. What we actually have, politically speaking, is not really a realignment. It's just a minor readjustment, really. A lot of people don't understand that, and they're gonna freak out at someone saying, "But it shouldn't be happening." Blah blah. Dude, it's been needed for a while, actually. We've had people left and right just going at it, and not in the good way. Okay. It is a required part of the political system worldwide to have what are known as rebalancing periods, and it's perfectly normal. It'll swing back the other way at some point in the future. Maybe not right away, okay, because let's face it, a lot of people got mad about what just happened for the last 10 years, okay? And you're just going to have to kind of accept the punches as they come, just like we did for the last 10 years. And I think that's more than fair. It's part of playing the political game. YouTube is just playing the political game, and trying to appear as neutral, even though we all know that a majority of the people that work in the building probably fall more in the left spectrum of the political agenda, which is fine. YouTube is going to sit here and have a bird about it, I'm sure. But there's nothing wrong with having your own personal political beliefs, as long as you understand that those beliefs might not be able to necessarily translate well into business operations. Okay? So when I get on here and I say stuff like, the left is out there screaming for violence in the street, they don't want that because they don't actually know what that means, and it's a fight that they would lose, YouTube might not agree with the politics of me being on the right and saying this thing, right? But they also know that I'm mathematically correct. Okay? They also understand that I'm not the only one who feels that way. I'm using this as an example, just for anyone dumb enough to try to come in here and try to wet work this friggin' thing by trying to emotionally blackmail me on my own stream and yada yada yada. Take your emotional blackmail and shove it. No one in this stream, my co-host, or any guest is going to give two flying you rips about your emotional blackmail. Save it for someone who's actually going to care, because you're not going to get it here. I don't play those games, nor does anyone in my family or immediate circle, so if you're looking for me to change that mindset, that is a losing battle. That is as much of a losing battle as, I don't know, pick a thing. That's like trying to light water on fire. It's not worth the effort, we'll put it that way. I will not change my opinion or my mind unless I am presented with data that tells me otherwise. Emotional blackmail is not data. It is attempted manipulation that, to be perfectly frank, can go F itself, because I don't care. Just ask one of my exes about 3 or 4 girlfriends ago about how well guilt tripping me worked. Boy, was she shocked. It didn't work. Guilt trips don't work on me. Emotional blackmail doesn't work on me, because I'll just shrug it off and call you dishonest, because you're not having a intellectually honest conversation. You're trying to bring emotional blackmail into the picture, which doesn't belong. So, yeah, I genuinely do not care about your stuff. Like, one of the points that was talked about this morning on one of the videos I was watching, which was Asmongold reacting to another video, by the way. It was not, it wasn't actually the video itself by Ethan Klein. I personally don't really have a personal beef with Ethan. I don't even know the guy, to be frank. And he does sound like someone I probably wouldn't necessarily get along with very well, but I could be wrong about that. Every time you try to talk to someone who's pro-Palestinian, they bring up the word genocide. And doing that is literally just a way to attempt to manipulate the conversation in an emotional way so you can't respond to it. I got a response for you. What do you call From the River to the Sea? Sounds like a genocide call to me. You can shove it. You can shove it up your ass. Accuse people of calling for genocide all you want, but don't turn around and then support people who are calling for literally the same thing for a different group of people. It's just intellectually dishonest, and it's kind of bullshit, to be honest. And we're all sick of hearing it because we know what it is. We recognize it for what it is, and it is literally people like that being just outright intellectually dishonest. You know, you can support all the bad stuff you want on your own platform, and that's fine, but don't come to me and don't steal from the whole town and then tell me you're Robin Hood, because that's not how it works. You're not going to sit here and appeal to my emotions. You're just going to get told to F yourself. And you can say, oh, that's close-minded all you want. I'll sit there and say, good. Because there's some levels of evil and manipulation that need to be closed off. In general. And that is one of them. I'm also going to raise the point. It's kind of interesting how no one wants to take these people in, and they think that Israel somehow has the responsibility to do it, when in fact they aren't actually from there. So, and before you get into that rabbit hole of saying, yeah, they are, blah, blah, blah. Dude, I've seen the Greek history manuals. I've seen the scrolls. I've been to the museums that house these things, and I can tell you for a fact, the Jewish people have just as much right to claim Israel as their home as anyone else does. And if you want to get really, really, really technical, under the rules of power, which is effectively keep what you kill, realistically speaking, none of you should have your territory. It should be split between India, Russia, and China. Because those are the three dominant military powers in the area, two of which are nuclear-powered states. So, if you want to get real nasty about it, which we can, none of you really are entitled to anything. If you want to play the game of whoever has the power wins, because it's none of you. None of you have the power. You are literally, like, in some cases, especially when it comes to Islamic State-funded, locations, a good 50% of their budget actually comes from US CIA and USAID dollars. Because it maintains an instability in the region that makes it so we can sit here and just basically blackmail cheaper oil prices out of people in the region and try to steal your lithium out from under you, and also there's the heroin. So, I mean, if you really want to get nasty with it, we sure can. Absolutely. In fact, actually, not a single one of you has any leverage in the region. It's the, 5 major players in the world economy that are your major players, and they all own you, and we're watching your little terrorist groups that you like to say are independent, when in fact you're owned by China, Russia, the US, etc. You're so owned by these individual groups that you might as well be wearing a vest with our logo on it, because you can trace the Secret Service or the Central Intelligence Agency, KGB, friggin' Moscow Secret Service, and all of that. You can trace all of the dollars right to you. Just, openly follow the money, and you'll find it. And I know someone's going to be like, fact check false, because the US never does that. Dude, we've done it for years. Decades. We've done it since after Vietnam. Okay? The instability in that region is part of the reason why China's able to strip mine lithium out of there, why we have a heroin problem, and why we're constantly arguing with them over the price of oil in their region, instead of them setting their own price. Because any time that they mention a price that we don't like, the CIA gets a burr up their butt and decides to say, what terrorist group can we fund next to destabilize your country? That's how it fucking works. It's worked that way since the beginning of the 1980s.
I don't like that.
But it's the truth. It's how we've done things for so long. And now that people like Donald Trump are saying, hey, yeah, no, this shit ain't right, you're fucking over people who own their own country when we should be making our own resources right here at home. And then the same CIA will use USA dollars to push an agenda point, like, but it's too expensive to produce it at home. Yeah, because some leftist got in there and decided to push a bunch of environmentalism bullshit that has nothing to do with manufacturing and everything to do with the left feeling all comfy cozy in their fucking moral superiority that doesn't exist, because they're the same group that'll have you mutilate the genitals on your fucking child because your child said some offhanded thing because they're under the age of friggin' 18, and children say offhanded things all the time. It's stupid. It is stupid. And they'll sit here and they'll use that regulation to drive up the cost of manufacturing this stuff in our own economy to try to push a world trade agenda that no one in the United States wants. We don't want to buy shit from China. We are forced to buy shit from China because the CIA, USAID, and the Federal Reserve are in cahoots to keep manufacturing out of the United States because it's more profitable for them for it to go to another country that they can manipulate later down the road. There it is in a nutshell. That's modern world history 101. No questions asked. And you know what? Back in 1998, it was 98. It was 98. 1998, I was in Bethel, Alaska with my father and my stepmother and my stepbrother. And I remember hearing on the radio when they were trying to pass bills to try to force more regulation, to try to force more manufacturing overseas. I distinctly remember it. Despite being in the 3rd or 4th grade, I remember hearing it, and my little kid brain at that time saying, oh God, that doesn't sound very good. And surprise, surprise, as an adult, in 2025, it's turned right around to bite us in the ass. And now the people responsible for it want to try to turn the other cheek and, turn a blind eye and say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. Of course you do. You know exactly what we're talking about because you've been in government longer than I've been alive. You know every bill that you've passed. You probably have it written down on a piece of paper somewhere in your office. And even if you don't, congressional records exist. So do Senate records. They're basically public information for the most part. So, anyway, enough spurging out about that end of the political spectrum. Well, not quite. But that's why we need someone like Elon Musk and Doge to come in and root out your fucking corruption that you'll bend over backwards to fucking protect at any fucking turn because you're directly benefiting financially from it. In fact, I'm kind of curious to see if there are any kickbacks from USAID going to US politicians specifically to maintain the status quo. I think that would be a very interesting thing to look at. And I'd be very interested to know how many of those names would line up with the people who are opposing directly any sort of investigation or audit into USAID. I wonder just how many of those names would line up, whether it be perfectly 1-to-1, or maybe there's one or two of you that aren't. How many Republicans are on that list? That's another question that I have too. Because I'll tell you what, those are the people that need to be gone. Those are the people who need to be primaried and removed from office. We should not be paying for trans orchestras and plays in foreign countries when we have homeless veterans in our own country. Simply put, you were voted into office to prioritize the well-being of the United States of America, not your own personal self-interests. if you have trouble making ends meet on the bills, then take up a second job. Stop stealing taxpayer dollars. Go join the military, and if you're too old to serve in the front lines, then don't. Do a support role. I'm sure plenty of military units would love to have someone operating a telephone somewhere. I'm sure a general somewhere would love to have someone answering his phones for him because he's probably tired of doing it himself. And I could go on. Like, the FBI, worst of the worst when it comes to financial corruption, especially. Um, and it's not just, like, malicious financial corruption, like people embezzling or whatever. But, like, let's say you run let's go with a Hollywood example. Let's say you run a top secret undercover op. You're okayed for a budget of, like, $500,000, right? Let's go a little bit bigger. Probably an overblown number. It's probably only a couple of thousand, right? And actually, let's try to keep it real. About $10,000, right? You only use like maybe $1,000, $2,000 during your operation. What happens to the rest of that money? Oh well, it just gets given to the agent as like a bonus. Now, see, I'd rather have that happen than have it go to the director as a bonus, which can happen as well sometimes, depending on who plays director at any given moment. But the problem is that it's okay to do that once in a while, especially if there's a good performance. It offers a good performance incentive. The problem is that it happens to all of them, even when there's bad performance. Um, so like, instead of giving the money back to Congress where it belongs, it just gets kind of like, instead of just a little drip faucet, it's like someone took a sledgehammer and just broke the faucet off completely, and the money's just gone. The barrel of water is empty, right? Um, Instead of returning what isn't used to the Congress to say, hey, yeah, we didn't actually need this for this particular operation or this for this particular operation. It doesn't happen that way because it's too much paperwork. It's effectively laziness. And that is an example of a um, I would call it non-malignant form of corruption, because it's only corruption in so as that the money is not actually being handled the way that it should be. Um, it's not corruption as in it is maliciously like buying someone like well, I mean, it could be theoretically, but like, it is one of the problems. It is a corrupt problem, and it's why our budget in the U.S. government is so high. Why pay, for 2 tanks the price of the 2 tanks when you can pay for 4 of them, and they don't have all the right features, right? Like the cannon is like one size too short on the barrel length or something, you know? It's just, it is an efficiency thing, and that's why DOGE is called the Department of Government Efficiency. Department of Defense is going to have a nightmare when they start running audits, because this stuff happens all the time. Example, Bush, Alaska, back when I was in McGrath, when I was a kid. It was like 4 or 5 different towns we lived in when I was a kid in Bush, Alaska, so bear with me. We had the Iditarod sled dog race, right? So when the sled runners for the sled dog race would come in with their dogs or whatever, they'd have all kinds of supplies that were either getting really close to like being at their expiration date or whatever, that they didn't want to chance it on, like on the trail, which makes sense. The last thing you want to do in the middle of a dog sled race is have to take a crap, right? Like, you don't want to be taking a dookie and then like 3 of your opponents just like whiz right by you like you're yesterday's garbage. So, it's better to replace your Go-Gurt and your beef jerky with whatever. Well, instead of those Go-Gurts and beef jerky, because, I mean, technically with those, you can't just recycle them back in to the local store or whatever to make some money. it just kind of got dumped into a pile of bags and the town just kind of split it up. Well, the town in this analogy would be like the people working at like the FBI or whatever. Instead of it going back to the sponsor who maybe paid for these things, it's going to some random people who have really nothing to do with the financial aspect of things except for the fact that they're a recipient of like a paycheck, right? It's not the best, most concrete example, but it's kind of like pseudo embezzlement, but it's not, but it is. It's money that should be reused in these departments for other things. Um, for example, that $10,000 example, you use $2,000. Okay, well, now you have $8,000 for future operations instead of giving it as a bonus to someone. Right? Like, I have a feeling that they probably get a bonus anyway at the end of the year or at the end of a quarter, depending on how the FBI decides to run things. I'm not specifically sure about that level of financial structure in the FBI, and I don't really care because at that point you're talking more corporate than you are the actual like congressional budgeting end of things. I don't care about that. How they decide to pay out bonuses or whatever doesn't really matter as much as like how many bonuses a year they're giving out. So if you sat there and told me that an FBI agent is getting like a weekly $1,000 bonus, number one, as a private civilian, I'm going to sit there and say, where the hell do I sign up, right? And so would anyone else, especially when you consider that amounts to about $52,000 in bonuses per year. And because you're a government contractor, your taxes are different. Because you're a government employee, your taxes are different. So, I mean, yeah. It's like half what we pay as civilians, by the way. It's probably far less than half. That's just the number that I was given was half by the one federal government employee that I've talked to about this subject who files her own taxes every year. Um, so, yeah. Time to get the clown nose, the wig, and the makeup out. Because we live in a clown world.
Oh boy. Did you know you're done with that?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was thirsty.
Yes, you were.
Anyway, yeah, that's kind of the clown world we live in these days, and I'm not wearing the clown shoes anymore. I'm just gonna grab on my combat boots that I do have, or my winter boots, depending on the weather, and I'm just gonna live because there's no point in even really bitching about it anymore. From what I understand of it, Donald Trump and Elon are on top of it, so. And that's another thing, people get messed up. Like, they like to sit here on the left and scream, Elon has access to social security numbers. He already did. He already did. The guy owns how many Tesla dealerships? As the owner of Tesla? In fact, actually, we should probably. I would love to rope Elon in on this conversation. I really would. Because I have one very specific question for him. And that is, how many social security numbers do you figure your dealerships that sell Teslas have to do to process loans for vehicle purchases? Because even in-house loans, you're required to provide your social security number when it comes to purchasing a vehicle. So, I mean, cry more about that one, right? That's my point. Cry fucking more. Someone who is already cleared by the economic state of the United States to handle social security numbers is handling social security numbers. Who cares? Now, the medical information, I'm sure that would be a big hullabaloo, but here's the reality about medical information, right? It's basically worthless. Um, Sure, there's some pirate identity thief hacker or whatever that would try to argue the point that it's worth something, but the reality is that that pirate is not going to care that I have, the craps when I drink coffee in the morning. Okay, they don't care about that. What they want is, how do they get into my bank account? How do they copy my identity to the T? And sure, the medical data might be somewhat important to that fact, but I kind of feel like our online identities and our physical identities are not that well tracked by these companies. Like, you're not going to be able to copy me too perfectly to the T. Um, Number one, as my opinions change based on the data that I receive, they change by the minute. Okay, um, as an example, overblown example, again, if Israel decided to nuke Iran tomorrow, then I'd probably be saying we need to invade Israel, right? Because that's a problem. That is a problem that needs to be addressed. That is an overblown example. Right now, I don't actually have a problem with Israel. And I only have a problem with Iran because they're one of the biggest state funders of terrorism, maybe second or third to the United States and Russia. So, and before anyone says, "Oh, the U.S. doesn't support terrorism," dude, we're responsible for the Taliban, Al Qaeda, and most of the old OG terror networks. We funded them directly under Bush Sr. Fuck off. We trained Osama bin Laden to assassinate someone via the CIA and gave him money and equipment to do the job. The reason he turned on us is because we told him we'd give him even more money for doing the job in the first place as a part of his payment, and we never fucking paid him. That's the dirty detail. That's the little tidbit that no one wants to tell you. But the reason we didn't pay him, actually kind of important. We didn't pay him because Congress did not approve that as a budget line item. It was a part of one of the quote-unquote closed door meetings that ended up being not so closed door because everyone... of course he is. And he's gonna get ready to play. Yeah. He's plowing on a day, and I'm streaming, and of course I have to go deal with also have to fix the game audio because there. Now we're back to work. Yeah.
Good boy.
So unofficially, a lot of people are saying that the Nintendo Switch 2 will be available in June. That leaves us like 3 or 4 months to actually save up the money for it, so we don't have to touch the house buying budget for it. And, you know, your computer's about to be paid off, so we should probably, in anticipation for it coming out,
Yeah.
we should definitely save up some extra money on a separate budget line for buying the 2 Switch 2s, so that way we can set up the other 2 Nintendo Switches that we have
Where we
for,
bought them.
yeah.
But wait, then doesn't that make what we just bought for putting up the TV, kind
Might
of-
actually be compatible with the Switch 2. Because according to what I've been seeing, it has a similar docking structure to the Switch 1. So, I'm not going to say yes, I'm not going to say no, but it's not actually pointless because we could use the dock for other reasons too.
True.
The fact, number one, the fact that we have 2 Switches, and I do get tired of this style dock. That the dock that's up there is easier to pull it in and out of and line it up with the plug.
Oh, I didn't even realize it was up there.
Yeah, I already set my Switch up with it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't even
So
notice
that
it was
way,
up there.
if River decides she wants to come over and play some Minecraft with us, she can, without us having to turn on a whole Xbox to do it. That in and of itself will cut down on the power bill. Speaking of which, I unplugged your Xbox from up there.
Kinda figured.
Because we don't use it, we have a DVD player up there, and we're not using the DVD Blu-ray player. We're using the laptop. So, heck, if the laptop had a built-in DVD Blu-ray player, I probably wouldn't even have the DVD player up there.
Wait.
In fact, actually, I could probably buy an adapter and just attach one to it anyway. And that would save on power by having one less thing plugged into the, into the wall, so to speak. And I don't want to fight that fight right now. Anyway, with all that in mind, hopefully everyone's having a nice day. Kind of just playing Minecraft by myself right now because I don't really have anyone to play with because my fiance discovered a game called Rune Factory and she's enjoying it, and I've been kind of glancing over at it and it looks a little interesting at least. But to answer your question about why Jason didn't take your check, he's got like 7 other yards to do this morning. And it's probably better just to mail it to him because he's got quite a bit to do today. And he doesn't really have the time to kind of sit around and wait. Which is why, while I like to be away from the house when he does the snow plowing, that's more out of personal courtesy so he can just get in there and do it quickly and get it over with. You know. Yeah, I gotta stop going out there because it's just not working out for me. But if I do go anywhere today, I'm going to have to get, like, real pants on, not just pajamas. And I'm wearing my winter boots with, like, real socks, not just my sneakers today. Hopefully, hopefully this is the last storm we get for a while, because
It isn't such a shithead. I go down with a check and spend a few minutes with Holly and Jane.
well, watch your language, please. I am streaming a little bit.
Oh.
Well, I mean, what you said wasn't a problem. I'm just saying, be careful what word you use, because I know you of the older generation have words that you like to use that could get me removed from the internet pretty quickly. So, I would really prefer it if you didn't. But I was actually kind of surprised to see him plow this morning. Really. While I don't necessarily agree with the fact that I have to limit the words that I say, um, when I'm streaming, there are terms and conditions that I have to follow. If I ever want to be monetized ever in my life, which could be a potential future, and by using certain words, that would be completely obliterated, basically. Another reason that I need an office. Oh yeah, I was trying to make a bucket the last time I was playing this. I should probably look into making a bow and some arrows too. I mean, I could try to look into making an automated chicken egg feather farm. But I don't want to be reacting to a Asmongold video on my channel, but I'm wondering what the hell Reddit did now. Oh my god. What did those morons do this time? In the strictest sense of the word, no. Mormons are not Christians. They use the Bible, Old Testament and New, as a part of their religious dogma, but they leave out the part at the end of Revelations that says about adding and subtracting from the Bible being like one of the most mortal sins, and that there's a special place in hell for people who do that. So, you know, that's just kind of an important distinguishing marker between Christianity and Mormonism that people forget. So, what, you want me to throw the rope? You want to play throw the rope? Well, I can't really throw the rope very far because people are doing things, so there you go. That's what you get. A very lethargic toss of your rope from Dad. Why don't you go play tug of rope with Mom for a minute?
Come on.
Good boy.
Alright. Now, it is still dark out, so I gotta put my character to sleep, get him to wake back up, and go put the wall out. We're gonna put up the wall, and we're gonna make Mexico pay for it.
Any place today?
Probably Walmart later, but I don't know. I don't know, because I might look in to see if we can get the thing that we need closer to home. would like to level off this. I guess I'll leave whether we go to Walmart up to the both of you guys, because I really do want to get that finished set up.
I know.
And I mean, I'm literally just doing a chat and chill about the state of the world right now. I'm not even, you know, I don't even have a viewer right now, so it doesn't really, I mean, it matters as much as getting the content on the channel so much as it does anything else, but like, the content doesn't have to be this all day. I can shift off into a different stream at any point in time that I see fit.
Speaking of, you should check to see if the thing is there. Your game that I gave you.
Oh, you're right.
You should check if it finally appeared.
Which was actually the reason that I was
Gonna stream.
playing Minecraft in the first place on stream. Was because I was waiting to see if the Halo Master Chief Collection decided to show up or not. All signs point to no, but I'll close out the Xbox launcher and relaunch it just to see if maybe it...
I caught the Magnus fish.
Yes, you did.
It's got a strong grip.
Nothing there, and the library is still showing the same amount. No, there is no Halo Master Chief Collection anywhere.
Maybe it'll appear tomorrow and then you can do the stream that you promised.
Maybe. I kind of wanted to actually do it today, but I was actually thinking about seeing if you'd join me, but you're kind of pretty endeavored in your game, so I didn't bring it up. Also, I do remember that you're not very...
FPS.
Yeah. Inclined.
And
Which
I have
is...
played Halo before,
Yeah.
but I don't remember which one it was.
Were you able to dual wield weapons?
I don't know. I didn't get very far in the game.
That's
I played it back with my older brother.
That's a core feature to Halo 2 and forward.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one it was. I didn't get very far in the game. It started out with you only having one weapon.
Was it a pistol?
Can't remember, but I do remember that you're in a facility. It's perfectly functional, and then after you get done with the first part of your mission and you're going back through, the facility is, I guess, gotten broken down and stuff, and you have a disappearing light bridge.
That's Halo 1. That is Halo 1, and I can show you exactly what level that is. I can't tell you the name of it, because, you know, it's been forever since I've actually read through the names, but that's Halo 1. You go through the facility, Master Chief discovers a helmet with a recording in it that shows the flood breaking out, and the facility goes to shit, and you have to fight with disappearing light bridges to get up to the top. That is the level right before the library.
No, there was just one disappearing light bridge.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can get across it, you got a straight shot out of the building.
Yeah, if
But
you didn't,
don't,
you had to go around.
yeah.
Yeah. And there's actually a way to glitch that with a grenade jump, by the way. You throw the grenade just right and you jump over the explosion, and the explosion boosts your jump further. Yeah. Don't ask me to do it, because I've died several times trying it the one time I got it to work. And that was before I had a YouTube channel. In fact, that was when I was playing it when I lived in Conway, New Hampshire with my mother, was a sophomore in high school, and was playing it on Windows XP at the time.
Yeah, the one I'm talking about, it was actually on Xbox.
Yeah, that was the original Xbox. I remember. You are literally talking to someone who played on the original Xbox when it came out. I didn't have an Xbox.
Yeah, we had a DDR game for the original Xbox. Too.
When I owned my first copy of Halo Combat Evolved, That was my own copy. It was after after I turned 13 years old and my dad and I had that fight, that I ended up living with my mom. And my mom bought this Windows XP, like, just kind of crap home computer. But the important part was, it played Halo 1. That was all I cared about. That, and I had my own PlayStation 2 that played the Final Fantasy 12, PlayStation 2 edition of Final Fantasy 12. Which was actually quite different from the Zodiac Jobs edition. We didn't have the Zodiac system. Every character in the game had the same license board. So if you knew what you were doing in the game, you could grind out license points and unlock the whole license board for all characters, which meant that you could have whatever character using whatever weapons you wanted to.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter.
I see a specific person on your screen up there.
Yeah, I do too. So yeah, no, yeah. I remember the good old days. Put it that way. I remember the bad old days too. Like the time I got my CD key for my copy of Halo revoked, basically, because I'd owned it for so long and used it on so many different devices that it just stopped working. But that was because I cycled through computers at that point in time, like a new computer every year after that, basically. Which wasn't by my particular choice. It was actually my mom's choice, because she recycled her computers a new one each year, and I basically just got her leftovers and didn't want them to go to waste, and it was a considerable upgrade from year to year. The problem is that when you use that CD authorization key so many times, it just kind of stopped being a thing. But now you can actually get the original Halo 1 software under the Abandonware end of things, because now Halo 1 is either part of the Anniversary Edition for Halo 1 or the Master Chief Collection. And that old software is considered, I don't even know if it's considered legitimate anymore, but it's the way I remember playing it. It's actually it was the first and last time I played a first-person shooter with a keyboard and mouse, actually, until just recently. I just kind of stopped doing it because it just wasn't the same. I had gotten used to the PlayStation 2 controller at the time, and then I got my first Xbox 360, shortly thereafter, and then I got used to the Xbox controller, which is, by the way, far superior to the PlayStation 2 controller, both in response times and in just, like, ergonomics. I swear Sony needs, to go back to high school on their ergonomics lesson, because they just totally failed that test. The Sony controllers, in my opinion, suck. I don't think they're very ergonomic. They're ergonomic for games like Final Fantasy, where it's slower combat on the older Final Fantasy games. It's turn-based, or if it's not turn-based, it's not a lot of fast-paced action stuff unless you're playing Dirge of Cerberus. Which I also had a complaint about that until I got an Xbox modeled controller that was actually a PlayStation 2 controller. And then, then playing first-person and third-person shooters became, well, just fine, actually. So, it was kind of a non-issue at the time, but I just kind of wish that Sony did a better job with their controller designs. It is more just like the stick placement, too. It's not, The sad part about it is that there is actually a happy medium between the two for me, and no one will ever make it. I would literally have to disassemble a controller and build it myself. So. But, I mean, if I did that, my controller would have probably just as many buttons as a keyboard did. And instead of the left stick being a stick, it would be a miniature version of like a trackball on a trackball mouse. In fact, actually, I'd probably just take a mouse and just flip it upside down. Personally. And I'd integrate it into the controller. Instead of having the right thumbstick the way that it is. And I mean, you also have other fingers that aren't doing anything on a controller, like you have your pinky and ring finger and your middle fingers that are just kind of floating around do, while your thumb and index fingers are basically doing all the work on your average controller. I feel like there's about, if you put 3 buttons on each of the other 3 fingers, you've got 9 on each side. That's 18. Plus the 4 and 4 on each side, which is another 8, which you could actually add on to that number with the thumbs, because realistically speaking, people can keep track of more than just 4 buttons at a time. You could probably have a maximum of like 6. So 12. So yeah, you could have enough to account for a whole keyboard on a controller, sure. And then you just kind of mutate the designs so your thumbs are a little bit more comfortable and sort of kind of like holding a rock, kind of, but that could work. Yeah. And if you're worried about, and you could actually split it in 2, so you have 2 of them like a Joy-Con. And if you're worried about the controller slipping out of people's hands, well, look at how the P90 was designed. You had a over-ring for, where the trigger guard was, and then you had a slot for the rest of your, hand to fit through. Just follow that same ergonomic design. You could, in theory, make a Joy-Con that works with a computer and an Xbox. And just put a big old hard switch on the side of it that flips between the 4 different devices that you want it to hook up to, and then it's already got the the search patterns for the individual type of Bluetooth between the 4 different consoles: PlayStation, Nintendo, the average PC, and Nintendo Switch. And the PC one could be the generic Bluetooth, because the generic Bluetooth is the one that gets used on everything else. And then, I mean, if you want to get really nasty with it, you could also add in a little modifier to hold the, a little rubber stop to hold the trackball in place, and you can add gyroscopic controls into the controller itself, so that way you can use motion aiming. There you go. Be all end all for controller design anywhere. Add an additional 6 buttons, trackball functionality for people who like the zippiness of a mouse. And for people who like motion controls, that's an option too. It's basically an all-in-one Joy-Con set that functions with every other system. All you'd have to do is get the licensing from the other consoles to, to enable the extra functionality on their software. Oh.
I was looking like this one.
I know. And I mean, heck, if you wanted to keep the mouse functionality because you're a good old keyboard and mouse user, but maybe you don't like the keyboard, you could add a little laser on the bottom of the one on the right and the one on the left, because maybe you're left-handed. It's just got a shutter with a switch attached to it to turn on the mouse functionality off and on. Sure. Might even start drawing it up and see if I could get someone to help me build it. The ultimate game controller slash computer control of all time. Well, I mean, when you stop and you consider what a keyboard and mouse and a controller do, they're not too dissimilar. They're dissimilar in form more so than function. You're using them to control a thing. So when you're controlling a thing, wouldn't it be best to have all the different control types available on, like, one device? It'd be like an Elite controller, a Joy-Con, and a mouse on steroids. Sadly, I really don't think that dream of mine will ever become a reality. It's just a dream. Well, I mean, so long as I don't, like, submit the idea to someone with a 3D printer and, you know, a YouTube channel because maybe they want to show it off. The problem that I have with it is we would end up having to talk to these different companies like Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony about making an open source controller that's compatible with all the different platforms. I don't think they'd go for that. And that's kind of where I'm sitting on the whole idea for the project. Which sucks, because it'd be a really, really good idea. You know, I just realized something about where I'm building my house, my base. There's a cove here that I can turn into my own personal little covered harbor.
Yes, you could.
And it's already naturally a part of the thing. I'm really thinking about it.
And you can even make a little fishing lake, too. Just block off part of it, and you have a little fishing area.
I'd need a lot of cobblestone. And I could really use some help if I'm gonna be doing that. Like, I don't even have to replace the stone over here, or the dirt over here with cobblestone, because I do also need a farm area and a sand area that this little area has provided me with all the different terrain types that I need. There's even a lava pit off, like, not even 2 minutes from my base. So, I mean, yeah, actually pretty useful. And there's tons of dirt, so making arrows isn't going to be a problem. Okay, well, maybe just one button for the pinky and, like, one button for the ring finger, now that I think on it, because I kind of feel like those two fingers are a little bit less dexterous on most people, as, like, your middle finger, your index, and your thumb. I mean, call me crazy, but even I seem to struggle with those two. You know. maybe make those two, three layered for a pro controller version kind of thing. Maybe. Okay, so we're talking about when it comes to making it capable for functioning with multiple different systems, there's really two ways to go about it. I personally like the wireless idea because I'm thinking back to like the Joy-Con and the motion controls and stuff like that. So if we wanted to keep full functionality between all the different controllers on one system, or on one set of controllers, like, you have two different ways to do it. You could have a power switch that powers up the different connector chips between the different devices. So you have your Bluetooth chip that's encoded for the Switch, your proprietary PlayStation Bluetooth chip, and your proprietary Xbox chip. And then you have a generic Bluetooth chip that can connect to just about anything else. That would be like your computer, your smart TV, etc. Even your cell phone. And I kind of like that idea better rather than powering up separate chips, like controller chips for the whole thing. Because I feel like doing that would just take more power. And then you just have like indicator lights for the different systems. Green for the Xbox, kind of a bluish color for the PlayStation, red for the Nintendo products, and like yellow or just a plain clear white for PC. And an orange light for charging. You know, an orange light that shuts off when it's done charging, basically. And a switch between the four different chips. The problem then becomes, how do you get the controller itself, the buttons, for example, to be recognized by the individual consoles? And that would be a headache, a little bit of a headache. And then you have to have a battery powerful enough to last for at least 24 hours of gameplay per per device. You're also going to have to talk to Nintendo, not so much, nor the PC, but you'd have to talk to Xbox and Sony about them deving up a two controller per person layout possibility, so that way you can use the separate controllers. Xbox had something like this called the Copilot program, where you could use a controller to assist someone who is playing a game, for example, with a disability, if you had to. Or maybe you just wanted to play with two separate controllers, like you're pretending like you're playing on a Switch on an Xbox kind of thing. They already were working on that kind of a thing, but my reasoning for liking the two Joy-Con setup is because no one likes to have their hands stuck here all the time. You might as well just be twiddling your thumbs all the time and see how bad it is for your elbows and wrists, right? I feel like being able to separate, and I can adjust my camera actually to show this. Like putting one hand here, down here, and another one over here is more comfortable. And that's how I play my Switch games, is that way. And I personally find that to be more preferable to you stupid monsters. Just can't leave me alone, can you? Can't let me do my work. Can't let me do my streaming without attacking me. That way you're basically getting all the best of all the worlds at the same time. and I would like to try to talk to someone to see if it would be possible without it looking like a mess, right? Like, I have an idea in my head of what I want it to look like. Like, I want the trigger to have a little circle around it that you could probably form a battery to, or maybe that's where the on off switch in the charging station is for it. Kind of like how the kind of similar to how the controllers on the VR works. I'd like to have the IR on the inner sides of the thing so you can lay your hand flat like you do on a regular mouse. And, you know, when you go into mouse mode, your triggers become your, you know, mouse left, mouse right. You know, kind of thing. You'd also have to have a way to shut off the motion control while you're in mouse mode because, let's face it, it would be really confusing for the computer to be accepting both inputs if you're using mouse mode and gyroscopics and you have your computer programmed for that. So maybe when you open up the shutter for the laser-based mouse mode to trigger off, I would also want the mouse, if we're talking about a gaming setup, it would have to have a different DPI read based on what you're using it for. Kind of like how the Logitech 502 works, where you can, in software, change the DPI of the mouse response times and stuff to make your mouse faster. I feel like that would be important. And you could probably lose the trackball too, because, like, if we're talking about just like, no, keep the trackball. Keep the trackball, but definitely get rid of the joystick idea. That way people can get used to using their thumb on, like, a trackball on a controller. I feel like that would be the better way. It would definitely offer up a higher speed aiming if you were in controller mode that could easily compete with mouse and keyboard. And then your arguments about which is better just become null and void because you've effectively made a controller that is both mouse, keyboard, and controller all in one. The only thing that you probably would have trouble doing with it is literally typing out a document, although if you were talented enough, I'm sure you could rig up some software to do that too. So, I mean, the shortcut keys with that thing for doing software like RPG Maker would be insane. Why am I going after wood right now?
I don't know.
Because I got so endeavored with my own other idea that I got distracted. I distracted myself effectively. Huh. I mean, we actually had someone attempt to do something like that before when they made the controller glove. But I kind of feel like that wasn't really what people were after. And still isn't what people are after. So, I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm on to something, though. I know that. I'm either on something or on to something, and I can't quite figure out which.
Well, when you figure it out, let me know.
See, the problem that I have with my idea is not so much a problem of practicality. The reality is that I could order the chips online, the batteries online, the trackball online. I could get the hardware set up. The problem is getting the software part of it set up. making the computer and the consoles recognize the different inputs would require someone from each individual company like Nintendo, Xbox, and Sony to come in and say, "Hey, we really like your idea, but we want to make it we want to be able to implement it on all our devices." And getting them to play ball with an idea like that as like a group, so people can stop with the whole who has the better controls, yada yada yada. When you could just buy like $100 controller that controls it all, and it works like a Joy-Con, so it's two controllers in one, would probably be like the best way to go, I think. But anyway, I think I'm gonna can the stream for now. Just kind of killing time on Minecraft. Might go to Walmart and do some electronics browsing for a little bit. Not going to do any more major purchases this week, that's for sure. Just a cord. Any other purchases will be done Friday if we decide to. And that's a big if. We might not. And I'm not really too concerned with the groceries either. I kind of feel like we have enough food, so we could be okay for the most part. Like, what, maybe some more protein pasta and some shrimp. So we can do more of the shrimp pasta dinner that we like so much. Unless you want to try a different type of fish.
You can. But what fish do we have?
We don't. I was talking about shopping.
Oh, right, shopping. I don't want to go shopping today.
I know, but we do need that cord for the Joy-Con charger. I was just wanting your... That wasn't really what I was talking about. I was actually talking about doing the shopping on Friday for the groceries. And maybe skipping doing the Friday groceries this week. Because I feel like we have enough stuff, with the exception of like 2 or 3 things, that really aren't necessary for the week to survive, I feel. But I was going to kind of leave it up to you. And actually, we don't even have to go shopping for that extension cord, because I do have kind of an answer for it. In fact, we have one in this house anyway. It's called an extension cord and a USB plug. So. And there's a green extension cord over in that window that was used for the holiday light. All I would need is the adapter for the USB to
the wall plug.
Yep. Which we probably have one floating around the house somewhere that's compatible with it, given that it's only charging Joy-Cons. They're not exactly a high voltage device, if you catch my drift.
Oh yeah, I know.
So, which is another thing that I like about the Joy-Con that I would definitely recommend as an implementation. Well, no, I wouldn't actually. No, I wouldn't. I would like to have USB-C plug for charging the controller that I was thinking about should be made. USB-C, it's become the kind of new standard, and I feel like if something better comes up, it'd be easy to swap to something else from USB-C. I don't really feel like USB-C is going anywhere for a while. Excuse me. I just really don't think that we should be in a world where how you control your video games is a topic of discussion anymore. As far as what you play games on being the best of the best. I don't really feel like that should be relevant anymore. I feel like we should be far and beyond that conversation. And yet we're not. I see people arguing about this all the time online, and it's really annoying. And I just kind of want to shut the conversation down entirely by creating a thing that would make it an irrelevant conversation to have anymore. Because if you have like the ultimate control device, then you can dunk on all of them for picking one side or the other. You know what? Instead of using cobblestone here, let's get rid of this gravel. But yeah, if you guys like the content or like the ideas, hit me up in the comment section. Hit a good old like and subscribe, and I will see you